is a split case Sulfur Nymph. It's a good little pattern for spring and summer and even into fall for the little sulfur hatch that goes on, and you catch them just as they're coming up to the surface. So let's get started. The materials are going to include a number 16 Nymph hook. This is a lightning strike hook. A TMC hook would work just as well. 5/64 copper bead. Okay. That can be either brass or tungsten. Some olive brown D-rib small. Okay, some 2mm scud back material. This happens to come from the South Holston River Fly Shop. And some goose bites, yellow. Alright. And for the tail, we're going to be using Cope de Leon feathers. And then for our legs, we're going to have super hair. Alright. Well, let's get to tying here. Alright, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a biot and cut one of these little quills out. And these things are pretty stiff, so what we're going to do is we're just going to throw one of those in some water and let that soak and soften up as we get to it. So, when you also use for thread, I'm using Uni Ultra Thread Olive number 70 denier, but you can also use a Uni thread or some other thread that's just a small thread. Alright, so we're going to start the thread on the hook. Trim off our excess there. Then we're going to come down just a little bit back towards the tail, and we're going to take our Cope de Leon fiber or feather. I'm going to take 4 or 5 fibers off of that. We're just going to even them up. That's probably 6 or 7 right there. We're going to even them up just like that. We're going to cut them off. Okay. And then we're going to tie them down here. Okay, you want to be about the length of the hook. So we're just going to tie it down just like that. Get our distance, that's pretty good. We may want to shorten that just a tad. Not much. Okay, we're going to come back like this. I like to come up underneath there and just prop that up. And I'll come back down here. And I'll just trim it right here. Okay. Now, the body is going to be D-rib material. Okay. And this material it's just shaped like a D if you look at it, but what we're going to do is have the flat part laying against the hook. So we're going to start this in order to keep a uniform body here. We're going to start this right here. Okay. And I'm just going to stretch that as I go back towards the back. Come all the way back to the tail, and then just keeping the body real slender, you're going to come back towards the eye of the hook. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to wrap that around, keeping the flat part on the body, around the hook. Okay, and what that's going to do is going to give you a segmented body there. Now as you come back towards the eye of the hook, what you're going to do is just let up on the tension a little bit, and it'll make that body just a little bit bigger. Okay, we get back up to here. I'm going to tie that off. I'm going to put 2 or 3 wraps over here. Back up, and I'm going to come forward a wrap. And we're just going to trim that off right next to the hook. Okay. Alright, looking good so far. Alright. Our next step is to take this little quill that we've got, and what we're going to do is we're just going to, it's been wet, it's been soaking. Okay. So I'm going to take this little pointed end off, and I'm just going to trim it. Square it up there. Okay. What that's going to do is going to give us a little bit broader back here. Alright. And we're just going to tie it. Now notice how I've got this down right at a 90-degree angle to the top of the hook. I'm going to come across here And see how it rolls up on top of the hook? And that's where you want it, okay? You're going to come back, as far as how far back your thread needs to go. It needs to go back to about where the barb of the hook is. Or not the barb of the hook, but the tip of the hook, okay? Now, if your hook is extending out of your vise a little bit, as it is here, you need to be careful you don't sever your thread. So I'm going to wrap that down, come back up to here, and then we're going to take our D-rib material, or excuse me, our scud back material, and we're just going to tie it down. Now I'm going to start right behind the hook here, and I'm just going to capture that, keeping that up on top of the hook too. Okay. And we're going to come right back to where we were. Alright. Now, we're going to this time go ahead and put a little wax on our thread. Okay. And then we're going to take our dubbing material, which in this case I'm using some Hare's Ear Plus dubbing, chocolate brown. You can also use an olive, a dark olive if you want to, or just, you know, something brown. When it gets wet, brown or olive, either one, when it gets wet, it's going to look just like brown, okay, which is really the color of the body of these little sulfur nymphs. I'm just going to wrap a generous portion on there, okay. Now, next step is we're going to wrap just straight back like this, okay. Alright, now, we got your body here, so the next thing you want to do is you want to kind of trim these little hooly dads out of here, so you can see on the sides anyway, okay. So I'm going to roll the vise up like that, and just trim it down like that. Also cutting my thread, which is not really a big deal. Let me get this rethreaded here, and then we'll just recover. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. So now, trimmed up, ready to go. With a little doodad right here. We're just going to get rid of. All right. Now we're going to take and we're going to put our legs on, and this is what we're going to use this black mohair for. Okay. I've got this little strand right here. I've got one strand that may be 3 or 4 inches long. I'm just going to double it over on itself until the ends are somewhat close to each other. Now, if you'll notice, these things are splayed apart, which is kind of what you want. So you're going to crimp them down right there, and you're just going to take one wrap right behind the bead. Okay? And that's going to give you your legs out this side. You can shorten them up a little bit. Notice how I spread them doing that. Okay. And you're going to tighten this down. Now you're going to come back and trim these. This is not where you want them. Wrap that down like that. And you're just going to take this. So I've just got my finger through there at that little loop. I'm going to pull it back like that. Now see, it's just not wanting. So I'm going to come over like this. Okay. Now see, I pushed them back just a little bit. That's right where you want them for right now. All right. We'll just wrap like that. Now, you're going to take your flashback, your scud back. Just going to pull it forward. Stay out of the way of your legs. Okay. Come over a couple times. Over the top of it. Then I like to come over between that and the bead just to kind of pinch it in place. Take and trim that. I'm going to take our goose bite, right, and I'm just going to bring it forward. I'm going to tie that down. Right there behind the bead. 1, 2, 3. We're going to move it up like that. Okay. And then we're just going to trim that right there. Okay. Now we're ready to whip finish here. Then we can complete our fly. Alright. There's 3. I'm going to put two of them on there. Alright. Trim that. Now we're going to trim our legs up. Now, like I said, this beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. You might like long legs. You know, I like mine kind of medium. So I'm just going to trim them back, just kind of eyeball that a little bit. Alright, so you got one side. You're going to take and, if these are twisted around, you can untwist them. Alright. You get to something like that. You're just going to trim those up about the same length. Okay, there you go. Display those babies out. You got your little sulfur nymph. Now, what I like to do with this fly is when I get to this stage after I'm through, what is going to tear up on this fly is a trout chew on it, and they will, trust me, this time of year, is you take a little, either some Sally Hansen's, or you can use some of this clear UV light clear stuff that you just put a little coating on that, toughens the fly up. But that little baby, once you get the little goobers trimmed out of it, there. Okay. That ought to catch a fish or two. Let's